Dude, never did it.
Welcome back to Never Did It. It's a podcast where two guys who like movies talk about movies that they watched. I'm here with Brad Garoon.
Hey, I'm Brad Garoon. You didn't introduce yourself first? So kind.
Hi, Brad Garoon. I am Jake Ziegler. Brad and I have been assigning each other movies, each one movie from each of the last 100 years, something that we haven't seen before. The year that we're covering this week is 2016. Brad, why don't you tell me about the movie that you assigned to me this week?
So I gave you Train to Busan. It's a movie I also watched relatively recently after hearing about it for, 6 years, 5 years by the time I'd seen it. When you were about to watch it a couple days ago, you said it sounds like Snowpiercer. And I could see why you would say that. It's a movie from Korea about action on a train. So yeah, that makes sense. I think it's quite different than Snowpiercer. It's much more like Bullet Train. Although, no, I'll take that back because Bullet Train's very funny and Train to Busan is not. Train to Busan is not a laugh riot. It's not like either. It's really its own thing. It's a zombie movie in a very enclosed space, but it's really a story about his father and his young child trying to get to Busan. They're a little bit estranged. The father he's a workaholic, I want to say, and doesn't really have time for his kid. He's got her and he's not used to having her. And I gave it to you because it's a heart-pounding action movie that I think you should have seen because you like action movies, like any other red-blooded American. What did you think of Train to Busan?
And well, number one, I loved it. Loved it a lot, and like you, I had heard about it for so long and had been on my radar, and I'm not sure why I didn't see it. There wasn't, wasn't a reason I had avoided it or anything. So I'm glad I finally had a reason to sit down and watch it because I thought it was wonderful. And no, it's not like Snowpiercer or any of these other movies. I mean, I think it's kind of a combination, of a lot of different things. It's like like a little Dawn of the Dead meets Snowpiercer meets some of these other things, kind of from other different, but like kind of combined into its own unique. Really compelling package. There's some just really great characters in it and some really amazing action pieces. And it really all does take place kind of until they get into the final third or, final stretch of the movie. It really all takes place in this really confined space, which is terrifying. What do you call it? Pulse pounding? Is that what you said?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like something I would have said.
Yeah. But yeah, it's fantastic. I watched it with my my wife and one of her sisters, and they both loved it as well. And we all just had a really great time with it.
What did you think of the cast? I ask because I was really, really drawn in by Yu Sang-hwa, the big guy.
Yeah, the big guy who had the pregnant wife.
The pregnant wife, yeah. So I think the character's name was Yoon. Wow, I'd never seen that guy before. Ma Dong-suk is his name. I was like, I need to watch every movie that this guy's in now. He's incredible. He's like Korean Batista. I wanted to see everything he's ever done.
Yeah, he was amazing. He and the main father you're talking about, who has the daughter, the two of them together. Their scenes were, just pitch perfect. Every one of them, they did really well together. The progression of their relationship as the movie moved forward and the different things that they had to do together was really believable and really, really moved in a way that made sense. And the way they treated each other, and the way they talked to each other, everything really worked between them. Everything between the father and the daughter, I thought worked really well. That little girl was amazing in that movie. Everything she did was like, I didn't not believe her again for a second. I thought she was really, really good.
Yeah. And child actors, it's interesting. So sometimes when I watch foreign films, I'm like, every child actor is so good. But the truth is, I don't hear really the nuances of what they're saying. So maybe they're terrible and I just have no idea. Whereas like I watched Knock at the Cabin recently and people were praising the child actress's performance. And I was like, nah, she's bad. She's bad in this movie. And
I haven't seen that yet.
It's fine. It's a totally solid movie. You see it for Batista. Second Batista mentioned in this episode.
Yeah.
And he's unreal in it. But she's not. She's an annoying kid in a long line of annoying kid actors. It's funny. I was watching this clip today of Steven Spielberg blocking out a scene while he was directing Jurassic Park and helping Sam Neill and the little boy whose name I don't know.
Mazzella.
I'll take your word for it.
Something like that. Yeah.
It was a scene where the boy is annoying Sam Neill, and Sam Neill just wants to get this kid in a car and get the tour moving. And the way Spielberg got them ready was mesmerizing. But this kid is clearly such a pro. It wasn't even rehearsal. It was just I guess it was technically a rehearsal, just blocking out the scene. And the kid said his line exactly how it comes out in the movie, even though he knew he wasn't being filmed. And I'm like, that's a pro. That kid knew what he was doing. There's a reason that no one gets annoyed by him watching Jurassic Park. That's just a dope child actor performance.
Yeah.
And this little girl, also incredible. And I feel bad because I have a really hard time pronouncing Korean names, but hers is easy. Kim Soo-an. And it's funny because I don't love zombie movies as a whole, but there are some that are amazing. 28 Days Later, what a great movie. And this movie has a similar, in its third act, has a similar thing going on that 28 Days Later does, where it's like the zombies are not so much the villain anymore. They're basically a force of nature. And the villain is a person, and you hate
that guy.
Is he the conductor?
Not the conductor. No, the conductor kind of does the bidding of this guy, but he's just another douchebag businessman who just wants to be in control. He kind of forces the conductor to do things his way.
Yeah, so that guy sucks.
That guy sucks. Yeah,
but he's great at sucking. And I'm going to stop using that word now. And this is what The Walking Dead in its first season knew that, and I'm sure it kept this going the whole time, but the reason people were compelled by it in the beginning is it's the thing that makes zombies interesting is not the zombies. It's what an impossible situation do to people and what will bad people do when put in a bad situation. And the most interesting zombie movies use that in an interesting way. And I think in a way, all zombie movies do that, but some way better than others. I will very soon be watching Army of the Dead because I'm trying to complete here's the third mention, Dave Bautista filmography. Mm-hmm. And I have a feeling that one's not going to do as good of a job.
Yeah.
Although Zack Snyder has made a zombie movie you really liked before. So
I really liked Dawn of the Dead when I saw, I was like, oh man, this Zack Snyder guy, he's got a future. I'm really excited for what he does next. And
yeah,
boy, it's just been one big colossal letdown after another since then.
I am really excited for our Zack Snyder's Justice League episode though, because I think we have some interesting stuff that even you will like in store for that episode. That might not include Zack Snyder's Justice League, but we'll see. I don't think Zack Snyder's Justice League is the worst. It's no Sucker Punch. I'll tell you that. That movie's garbage.
Rough. Yeah, that's a rough one.
So yeah, Train to Busan's great. I got on a kick, not after watching this, but after watching The Handmaiden, which came out the same year as this, in part because of this, of watching a lot of Korean movies, because it just seems like their top line stuff is so good. And I'm glad I did, because for the most part, I've been really rewarded by that. And then in some cases, the things haven't stuck with me. Like I watched The Host. So you mentioned Snowpiercer. Bong Joon-ho, who directed Snowpiercer, also directed The Host. People talk about that as this amazing monster movie. And it might just be the case that I don't like monster movies, because I did not like The Host. And the other night, actually last night, my buddy Mike asked me to watch just the last 15 minutes of Godzilla. This is Japanese, not Korean, but it's a monster movie. He asked me to watch just the last 15 minutes of Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. And I was mad at him. I was like, that was a waste of 15 minutes of my life. But I do want to talk a little bit more about big monster movies in a bit. Before we move on to our very, very different next movie, what are your favorite zombie movies?
That is a good question. I'm glad you mentioned 28 Days Later, because I meant to mention that when I was talking about the cross section of movies that I think made up Train to Busan. Because I was going to say it was like 28 Days Later, Snowpiercer, and
Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, it was like kind of all of those things kind of mixed together. So I think 28 Days Later, I definitely thought of that movie, and I do think that's a great movie also. So 28 Days Later, definitely one of the best zombie movies, I think. And I do think Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead is really good. And the original Dawn of the Dead, also I thought, I think, of course, the original one is very, very good.
Which one is the original Dawn of the Dead? Because Night of the Living Dead is the first one.
Right. I think, oh boy. Now
Dawn of the Dead is the 70s one?
Yeah, 1978. Yep, Dawn of the Dead from the 70s. That's the one.
I haven't seen that. I've seen Night of the Living Dead, which is a great movie, a great like people scared in a house movie.
Yes. Yep.
And also, it's so funny that people watch that and don't realize that it's like the wokest movie.
It is, yeah.
It's old.
Oh yeah. I mean, George Romero's good like that.
Yeah, that movie's woke as hell. Love it.
I mean, Shaun of the Dead, of course, is is a great deal of fun. Yeah.
Awesome.
But then you've got I remember one being really disappointed was World War Z. That was just really, really boring and not interesting at all. And I was really excited for it when it was coming out, but I really thought it was not so good.
You thought it was going to be about you?
Maybe it would have been better if it was about me. I don't know.
I've never seen that movie. I probably won't. 28 Days Later, I think, is far and away my favorite. That's kind of a basic answer, but
that's probably the time. I mean, yeah, it's a cliche answer, but it's probably the right one.
Yeah. All right, moving on. You made me watch Moonlight.
I did.
Tell me why.
Well, Moonlight is, number one, I think it's a great movie. And also it's, I'm really into the Oscars and all that. And it was the Best Picture winner that year. And not only did it win Best Picture, but it was an interesting little footnote because it wasn't announced as the best picture in a rare gigantic screw up. It was Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway announced La La Land was the best picture, and then the producers of La La Land got up there and looked at the envelope. They're like, wait a minute, actually it's supposed to be Moonlight. They showed the envelope and it was like, oh, it's Moonlight, and then Moonlight got up there, so it's actually really memorable kind of moment. And the people in La La Land were so like gracious and humble about it and very cool. Everyone was so cool about it. It was just, I thought it was kind of a cool moment, a memorable moment. So there's that about it too. So great movie and a trivia bit and a best picture winner, kind of all of those things. I thought it was worth seeing. Also, I will say Manchester by the Sea was a very close second choice, because I also think that's a really, really great movie from that year. But like I said, Moonlight, I think carried a little more historical significance. So that seemed like a good choice.
For sure. I actually have a very, 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 very small connection to that bit of trivia. The guy who had to make that announcement, the producer, Jordan Horowitz, I dated his sister for a short period of time.
Right. I remember you telling me that now. Yeah, that's right.
I remember we had already stopped seeing each other by the time the Oscars rolled around. And I was like, I remember that guy.
Yeah.
So I liked Moonlight a lot. One day I'll see just Manchester by the Sea, just because. I'm sorry I haven't seen it yet. And when we get to talking about our lists for this year at the end of this episode, I have one for you that I think you also still need to see. And I'm surprised I didn't give it to you instead of Train to Busan, but so be it. Moonlight was just very different than I thought it was going to be. That poster for Moonlight has become such a iconic part of the movie is the poster. And I didn't realize until after I watched the movie that is 3 people superimposed on that one head of that person, which of course makes total sense, because this movie is told from the perspective of this young man in 3 different parts of his life: when he's a little boy, when he's a teenager, and then when he's a hardened adult. And the movie's very interesting. It's about identity, what it's like to be a young black gay man and come up in a very hard place, and how that shaped a very gentle young boy into a very tough and guarded young adult. I think it's really well done. I can't fault it in any way. It's not thrilling,
right,
but it's powerful. And it's one that, so I rated it 4 stars, but it is one of those ones where the more I think about it, the more I'm kind of blown away by its construction and the performances of all 3 people playing the main guy. I'm surprised that Mahershala Ali, who's in actually not very much of the movie, got so much attention when these 3 young men didn't. I think the one who played the teenager got you tell me, you're the Oscar guy. Who was the one that got the most awards attention? Aside
from Mahershala Ali, none of the other, well Naomi Harris, who played the mother, she was nominated for an Oscar as well. Aside from him, for as far as other award consideration, I'd have to look up and see which one. I believe the oldest one, who's Trevante Rhodes.
Yeah,
I want to say that he received the most other attention, but I'm actually gonna look that up right now and see, because I do think that's interesting. Because I remember I hadn't seen it. We watched it the night last night before we were recording this. I watched it again for the first time in a while, and I was just like you, blown away by all 3 of those performances. But the youngest in particular, I thought was so good. That last scene that he has with Mahershala Ali before, at the end of that sequence, I thought was just kind of mind-blowing that kid did that, and he did it so well.
Yeah. It's interesting that Barry Jenkins, who broke out because of this movie, he's the director of the movie, has done not a lot since then. He's been producing a ton.
Mm-hmm.
He made If Beale Street Could Talk, which was very acclaimed.
Terrific movie, too.
He directed 1 episode of Dear White People, which is nothing. He directed the miniseries The Underground Railroad, which, I don't know, TV's so bifurcated. I don't know anything about that. But then he's just been producing. Like, he produced After Sun, which is, I didn't connect to as much as most people. I'm not a parent. It didn't get
I
me.
love it.
Yeah, what a surprise. It's about a guy and his daughter.
Yeah.
It didn't do as much for me. Just like I was thinking about the other day, because I watched Come On, Come On, and I'm like, yeah, this is good, but it's not getting me the way it's getting a lot of other people. And I love Joaquin Phoenix. I'm just kind of surprised at the trajectory of Barry Jenkins' career and why he hasn't directed more films.
Well, he's working with Disney now. He's doing The Lion King. The next.
Oh, is he doing? You mean Mufasa?
Yeah, the Mufasa thing. Yeah, he's directing that.
So that's a huge bummer.
Yeah,
that sucks.
Yeah, yeah. I was hoping he would do something else, but maybe that means this Mufasa thing will be good.
No. They're not good. These movies are not good. They're bad. There hasn't been a good one. I remember when I saw The Jungle Book in the theater, I'm like, this is all right. And then I watched it again recently. I'm like, this movie sucks. These movies are bad. The Jungle Book. So here's how I want you to watch when you go to see the new Little Mermaid. Here's how I want you to watch it. I'm going to ruin it for you. When the CG characters are doing their bits, look at the human characters and notice how they can't move. they can't do anything because for the scene to work, for them to be able to animate around the humans have to stay in place. And it just makes everything seem so wooden and fake. I rewatched The Jungle Book, and my favorite scene was when Christopher Walken as King Louie sings, and the little boy is just standing there staring at him doing nothing like an idiot. Like, this stinks. This is garbage. That's how they all work. It's too, if they're going to do it, and this is where the Mufasa one might have a leg up. There's no humans in it.
Right.
So everything's it's just an animated movie. So I don't know, but The Lion King was so bad.
That was not a good one. I did not like that.
I don't know. We got to get Barry Jenkins out of, he's got all the money now.
Yeah.
Anyway, Moonlight rules. Great movie.
It's almost like 3 short movies.
It is.
You kind of spliced together, which is a really interesting way. Yeah, really interesting way to tell it. And but he's got he has these 2 strong female presences in his life. Both, I mean, again, it's completely opposite ends of the spectrum. His mother, who is just a destructive, completely destructive influence on him, and then his mother, Naomi Harris, who plays Moneypenny in the Bond movies, which
and she's also the villain of the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy. Thank you very much.
I would not have remembered that.
Yeah, it's terrible. She, at the end of the 3rd one, she becomes a giant sea monster. And it looks ridiculous because they don't turn her into a monster. It's just her, giant, crashing the boats. You don't remember this?
I don't remember that. I believe you, and I know I've seen it. No memory of that.
I think we saw it together in the theater.
We did. Yeah, we definitely saw that 3rd one together. Yeah.
Yeah. Giant Naomi Harris crashing into things is a really weird part of movie history.
Wow. I do not remember that.
Yeah.
Geez. Oh, but then he has a Chiron, the character Chiron has a positive influence on life as Teresa, who's played by Janelle Monáe, who is just wonderful, just great in this. And then, like we mentioned, he's got Mahershala Ali, it's a very complicated relationship there because, he's such a positive influence on him, but he's also a drug dealer who is selling drugs to his mother.
Yeah. So he's ruining his mother's life while he's trying to mentor this boy.
Right. It's a really complex, series of, relationships and emotions, and there's a lot going on there. And then, the relationship that he has with Kevin, the way, how that is as a teenager versus, when they reconnect as adults, it's really heavy, it's really heavy stuff.
Yeah. The guy who plays adult Kevin also should have had some awards attention because he's out of this world. Teenage Kevin was pretty good. I can't really remember what little kid Kevin was like. He has like 2 lines, so it's not a big part of the movie, but they meet as children and then they connect more as teenagers and then reconnect as adults in a sort of cathartic moment. Mm-hmm. But what I think is so amazing is that, here's a really interesting way to think about this movie. The 3 actors who play Chiron, they all play him quite differently. As a kid, he's very meek and he already knows he's gay and he's very nervous about what that means and it weighs on him. And Mahershala Ali wants to, he's so gentle despite being this destructive force in the neighborhood. And then as a teenager, Chiron is bullied. And the guy who plays the bully is also very good.
Outstanding, yeah.
Yeah, man, I underrated this movie. And Chiron plays it as he's sort of tortured, very inward. And then as an adult, Chiron he's been through the system now because of something he does in the teenage section. And he's tough and he's not letting on at all that he's sensitive or effeminate or anything like that. But then he reconnects with Kevin. And anyway, what I'm getting at is they're 3 incredibly different performances, but they feel like they're the same person. I just watched Shazam 2: Fury of the Gods.
I did not expect those to be the next one out there.
And this has been said a lot. I'm not breaking any new ground by saying, first off, this movie's crap. Don't watch it. I am a freak, and I feel like I have to watch all the DC movies now that I've seen so many of them. Shazam Fury of the Gods is very bad. Adam Brody and the younger version of Adam Brody are great in this movie, and they're in it for like 15 minutes, so it's not worth it. But Zachary Levi and the guy who plays the younger version of his character are not playing the same character. Zachary Levi could have done what the younger person is doing, because what the younger guy is doing is much more interesting. Zachary Levi is just playing a guy who wants to be black but isn't. And it's bad. You can look at a movie like Moonlight, where it's 3 people of 3 different ages, and granted, they're not like zapping back and forth supernaturally.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Moonlight would be a very different movie.
Totally. I just like take a cue from anyone who's done this, who's had to play a different version of a younger version and done it well. Don't just do whatever you want for whatever reason you like. I mean, look, now we know more about this guy as a person, and it's not that surprising. But it is a bummer that it contributes to this movie being really annoying. The other thing it does, it makes you really appreciate how these 3 actors, who are not very experienced, any of them, did such a better job playing the same character very differently.
Yeah, it's really an impressive. Like all the acting is incredible. I mean, it's written so well. It's shot beautifully. I mean, the score is great. I mean, just the look of the movie. I mean, it's not one of those movies where you maybe need to see it, a time or two to really notice. But just the way the shots are constructed and the color, the color composition of it, everything is really beautiful. The play that it's based on was called like In the Moonlight, Black Boys Look Blue.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of plays into the poster, like the poster design too. And I'm glad you mentioned that too, because my wife and I were talking about it last night too, because we watched on Vudu. You can see the poster on it. We have that. We're just looking at like just how cool it is, and like just what a great design that is, and how many movies do such a great job of summing up the essence of the movie just in that one image, and that one does it as good or better than anything that we've seen. Moonlight for me is a 5-star classic. It was my top movie of 2016. Which was a great year, and there was a lot of really, really great movies that year.
Okay, so let's talk about our 2016 list. I've got mine pulled up. Mm-hmm. I'll go from 20 to 1, and you can yell at me for certain things.
Okay.
Now, I do it a little different than you. I combine documentaries and narrative films.
Yeah.
I know you don't do that.
I don't.
Okay, so at number 20, I have I Am Not Your Negro, which is a documentary.
Great movie, yep.
Number 19, I have 20th Century Women.
Right.
Yep. At number 18, I have Nocturnal Animals.
Really like it.
At number 17, I have 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Very good.
Very good. At number 16, I have Moonlight, and now I'm thinking I did this wrong. At number 15, I have In This Corner of the World, which I just watched for the first time recently, and it is a really sweet Japanese animated movie. I highly recommend people seek this out. It's really, really good.
Very good, yes.
Staying on the animated train for a second, it's an animated documentary called Tower. This one I recommend seeking out only if you are not really triggered by what is a huge problem in this country now, which is gun violence. Tower is a documentary about the shooting at University of Austin, Texas.
Excellent. It's really, really good.
Terrific. Number 13, I have Train to Busan. At number 12, I have La La Land.
Terrific.
At number 11, I have My Life as a Zucchini, or if you're in any other country, My Life as a Courgette.
Yep.
Really great stop motion animated movie. Jake and I were talking about this recently off pod, that there are under 200, actually under 150 stop motion animated features, which is not surprising. They're very hard to make. I'm going to try to watch them all, or as many as are actually available to see. Number 10, I have Kung Fu Panda 3, which is the last, well, until soon, because they're making a fourth one now.
Right, yeah.
Kung Fu Panda is a really underrated action trilogy.
They're excellent.
Yep. Number 9, I have The Nice Guys. Shane Black's The Nice Guys.
Great movie.
Just a fun time with the movies. At number 8, I have The Midnight Special.
Excellent. Also good movie.
I think people don't know about this movie or know much about Jeff Nichols, period.
Agree. Yeah, agree on both counts.
If you're into like sci-fi that's more grounded in reality, I really recommend Moonlight Special. It's really about like what being in a cult and getting away from a cult is like. But there's a bit of sci-fi thrown in, and it makes for a very beautiful ending. And number 7, I have the only movie on my list that you haven't seen, and the movie I kind of wish I'd given you instead of Train to Busan, which is Colossal, starring Anne Hathaway and Jason Sudeikis, directed by Nacho Vigalondo. Oh, this is far and away his most interesting movie. I think he's a horror director aside from that. This is a great movie about domestic abuse that happens to also be about kaiju.
Sure.
And it's the only kaiju movie I like. So check it out.
Yeah, it's been on my radar too. I don't know why I haven't seen it. So yeah, it's maybe now that when we finish Ted Lasso, we'll keep our Jason Sudeikis thing going.
So it could not be a more different performance from Jason Sudeikis. Actually, saying more than that would spoil the movie. But Ted Lasso season 1 is really a terrific Jason Sudeikis performance. Yeah. And then Colossal. And then I'm going to run through the rest because they're movies that everyone loves. Handmaiden, amazing. Hunt for the Wilder People, Hell or High Water, 13th, the documentary by Ava DuVernay, Arrival, and Kubo and the Two Strings.
All great. Yeah. All excellent. All great.
All right. So yeah, Moonlight should probably be higher up. I don't know. I'll figure it out another time. You give me yours.
Okay. Counting down from 20. And I rank documentaries separately. So a lot of the documentaries that were on Brad's list would rank very highly on my documentary list or very good. But if we go count down from 20, I've got Nocturnal Animals listed there. Number 19, I have the animated film The Little Prince.
Oh man, wait. So we must do I must have Little Prince on a different year because that's a 5-star movie for me.
Yeah.
I must have it on my year earlier list because it came out internationally before it came out.
Yeah, I think it didn't come out in the States, I think until like February of 2016.
That movie rules. Everyone should see The Little Prince.
Little Prince is great. Absolutely. Yep. 18 is Hunt for the Wilder People.
Great.
17, I have Moana.
I don't like it that much.
I love Moana.
How do you feel about the fact that they're remaking it already?
It seems really, really soon. I don't understand why they would do it so quickly. I mean, I understand some of the other ones, like, all right, Beauty and the Beast is like 30 plus years old. Sure, go ahead.
I have an answer for that. Black Adam didn't do well.
Yeah, that's a good answer, actually. Yeah. I mean, my kid will want to see it, so I'll see it. But I don't know. I just really like the animated one.
Fair enough.
Number 16, I have Train to Busan. Really, really liked it.
Made the list.
Number 15 is a film by Jim Jarmusch. It's called Patterson. It's got Adam Driver.
I've been meaning to see that.
Yeah, I think you'd really, really like it. I like it a lot. 14 is a film by a guy called John Carney. It's called Sing Street. He's a guy who did the movie Once. It's similar to that. 13, I have The Nice Guys. Again, really, really like that movie. Number 12, I have Kubo and the Two Strings.
Oh, should be higher.
I guess it's a tough year, man. It's a real tough year.
Yeah.
11 is a movie called A Bigger Splash. It stars Ralph Fiennes.
It's the remake of La Piscine.
Is it?
Yeah. So it's The Swimming Pool, which is a French film from the late 60s or early 70s, which is really good. I've never seen A Bigger Splash. Annie and I went and saw the original at the Metrograph, and we were really taken by it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I have not seen the original.
Oh, yeah, it's good. I mean, you've seen A Bigger Splash, so you won't be surprised by anything. But
right, which I loved. And it's directed by Luca Guadagnino, the guy who did Bones and All and Call Me By Your Name. It was right before Call Me By Your Name.
Highly recommend you see the original.
Yeah, now I won't really want to. Number 10, then The Salesman. It's an Iranian film from the guy who did A Separation. It's very, very good. Number 9, I have La La Land. Number 8, I have Zootopia.
Yeah, I don't like that one as much either.
I love Zootopia. I've always loved that one.
You have. I actually watched it for the first time on your recommendation. I was like, this is fine.
Oh, yeah. Well, these things happen.
Yep.
7, I have Hell or High Water.
That's, you know what? At someday, when we're done with our 100 movies, I just want to have a half hour to talk about Hell or High Water, which is maybe the best heist film of all time.
I would love to. My wife hasn't seen it, so we've been talking about watching it because she loves, we love Chris Pine and Jeff Bridges. And I think
maybe that's the future of Never Did It, is what our wives haven't seen.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Right. Or is it 6? We were just talking about this kind of before the podcast. I have Captain America Civil War.
Yeah, so I like Captain America Civil War a lot. And if it was like a top 30, it would be in there. But I like First Avenger more than I like Civil War. And of course, and Winter Soldier is just like a much better movie, I think, than Civil War. Civil War is sort of like the beginning of this stuff. That movie's fun. It's really good. And it was cool, like so cool at the time to see everyone in the same movie.
Yeah.
But it was the beginning of like, is this getting too bloated? I mean, I didn't feel it at the time, but now looking back.
Yeah. And now we're into the top 5. I've got the Japanese animated film called Your Name at my number 5.
So I've never seen Your Name, but the other movies by that director I find so boring. Wait, wait, is Your Name the one where they switch bodies?
Yes. Okay,
I have seen that movie. It's solid. It's just like, it's so emo. I don't know. I feel like I'm not in the right headspace to if you're really like, if you want a movie that would appeal to a young adult audience and you're into that kind of stuff, which no judgment, that's a great movie for you. But to me, it's like, okay, great. They found love in different timelines. Good for them.
And then number 4, these are similar. Then here we've got number 4, The Handmaiden, which is awesome. Number 3 is Arrival. It was great. 2, Manchester by the Sea, and number 1 is Moonlight. So those top 4 almost, I don't want to say quite interchangeable, but I mean, those top 4 are just all great movies.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Arrival is the movie that got me really into Denis Villeneuve. I love Dennis. He's so good. He's the menace. And then I went back and saw his other movies, and some of them are even better. Like I think Enemy, which we watched, I think, over FaceTime or something, or we were just texting each other while we watched that one.
Yeah, it's not like we were watching it at the same time. Yeah,
I'm obsessed with that movie. So sometimes I feel weird about the fact that I have Kubo over Arrival, but Kubo is just, it's like, I think Kubo and the Two Strings is the best stop motion animated movie of all time. So
Kubo is amazing. Yeah.
So that does it for 2016. We spent a good amount of time on our top 20 list.
We did, yeah.
This is a longer episode than usual. Hope you liked it. We'll be back with another year. We don't always know what next week is going to be, but we'll be back with it. Oh, by the way, I should have mentioned this last week. If you want to know what is coming out next week, as we're recording this, we don't know, but by the time it's up, we'll have long since recorded the next one. Go to our Letterboxd profile. You can find me at Brad Garoon on Letterboxd. I think, Jake, you're Jake Ziegler on Letterboxd.
Yep, it's Jake_Ziegler.
And both of us have pinned to our profiles our Never Did It podcast list. You could also just search for the Never Did It podcast list. And the 2 movies that will be discussed on next week's episode are always at the top of that list. So check that out. And thank you for joining us for Never Did It.